Well, Sophia, thank you for joining me today on Leaving a Rich Legacy. I like to call this podcast really a love letter to my younger self. Through my home journey of self-love and healing, I felt like there was so many conversations I just didn't have growing up, whether that was as a child, a teenager, my early 30s. There were just so many things we don't talk about in the Black community. And this is an opportunity for us to have those conversations and inspire other people who maybe feel the same or just are unaware of things they don't know. So I found you on YouTube, and I believe Mr. Tony Gaskins gave you a shout out. And you are doing some amazing work. So please just give us an opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. First of all, I just have to say again, Jessica, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm just so excited about the initiative and the movement that you are doing to not only educate us, but empower us as females, as women, as humans, and even the men, because I'm pretty sure that there's men watching too, because you had men on your podcast as well. But I am Sophia Melonē, better known as the Debt Demolisher. I have an absolute passion for teaching in the financial literacy space. I have been in the accounting field for all of my professional career for over 15 years now. And speaking of that side of the house, a lot of times people say like, hey, you're in this accounting career or you've already had this finance background. So you had that expectation of being relatively good in terms of your personal finances, but that wasn't always my story. So just thinking back on the things that I experienced in my childhood growing up and realizing like, whoa, I am doing relatively well in my career, but my finances aren't necessarily equating to the things that I do on my job. I had to learn to do something different about my financial life. And so that's what got me into the space of not only learning how to change my financial life, but teaching others how to do the same. So I started my YouTube channel just to kind of share my journey and share nuggets of what I'm doing to change my financial life around. And it's been one of the greatest things that I feel like I could have ever done, not only for myself, but for my future and for the futures of others to be able to empower people in their finances. So one of the things that I'm extremely passionate about is not only educating in the financial literacy space, but letting people know that it's okay to have these kinds of money conversations, because many times folks may not want to necessarily talk about those things. I'm a caregiver to my mom, absolutely love my mom to the dearest. I've been taking care of her for a very, very, very long time. Had some challenges, of course, in my upbringing, but overall, for the most part, very hardworking, dedicated to the mission, love my mom and care about my family. And that's one of the things that keeps me going in addition to my faith.
Okay. All right. And yes, you are dedicated. I will tell you that. I don't, we haven't met in person, but just following your journey on YouTube, you are absolutely committed to family and your mom, but you're also committed to educating folks. Like if something comes out, loans or student loans, thank goodness mine paid off, but like you are really like, let me jump in and share with the people. So it's definitely clear you are passionate about educating. So tell us about the debt demolisher. Like, what exactly is the debt demolisher? Explain that to us.
Of course. So it's funny. I came up with this name. I was in a virtual seminar years ago, maybe like back in 2017. And you know how when you're in these virtual settings and they're trying to get people to engage and you can kind of like change your profile name or however you kind of want to be addressed. And that was one of the things that I was doing, because they kind of gave an exercise to say, hey, update your name, update how to best describe you. And I was thinking, and I was just like, you know what? I've paid off over, I think at that point it was maybe like $50,000 of debt in about a year. I paid off $50,000 in debt in less than a year or within a year. And I'm going to call myself the debt demolisher. So I just called myself that from this training or seminar that I was on. And I was just like, you know what? That is what I do. I demolish debt and I'm the debt demolisher. So that's how I came up with that name.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's good. How do you So what type of services do you offer with the debt demolisher, like specifically?
Yeah, so primarily I'm definitely into the education space. So I offer speaking services, I offer training services. So a lot of companies hire me to facilitate workshops or hire me to facilitate training sessions or maybe even to speak on a panel. I also offer one-on-one coaching, but those services are very limited just because of my schedule. But I do have a lot of tendencies where after I'm speaking at events, people want to be able to have more of a one-on-one conversation with me. So I've opened those doors to allow those services as well. But primarily it is speaking services, facilitation services, and then I also have ebooks, I have templates, and just things to help the community with, or households rather, to be intentional with their finances and creating those tools that can help them navigate that process.
Okay. So you mentioned like it's a conversation we don't want to have when it comes to money. Why do you think, people are so afraid to talk about money, and specifically in our community?
There's so much to unpack just in that question, Coach Jessica, because number one, it could stem from a sense of insecurity and it could also stem from a sense of lack. Depending on where we grew up or depending on what our environment or our household life was like, what we were exposed to kind of determines how we live out our future lives, and that even includes financially. So when I think about my days when growing up in my household, I didn't come from a privileged background. My parents, my mom is Jamaican, so she came from Jamaica. She came to the States when she was 18 years old, and she had to work at a very early age, even before she came to this country. So being in that environment where we had to struggle, where we had to work hard, my mom worked 2 and 3 jobs in order to take care of myself and my brother. She had severe ailments health-wise that put a lot of things in jeopardy. So when it came to her having to take care of us, there were times where, we didn't have food to eat. There were times where, there were instances we had to get food from the food banks or get clothes from hand-me-downs or food shelters or whatever the case may be. There were always instances where we did not have it all. And when my mom did started to work, she didn't make enough, but she was relying on her credit cards. So when I think about how I grew up and I was able to start making my own money, I went into the state of saying, okay, I never want to feel this experience again. I never want to be able to have this moment of lack. I never want to have to feel the pain of having a too small shoe. I never want to have the experience of having to wear worn out or too big clothes because the clothes aren't even mine. And when you think about how these experiences as a child plays into your adulthood, when you start to make your own money, you're going to end up wanting to fill those voids. And then you're not going to want to be able to have the conversations about the lack that you experienced growing up. So to be quite honest, when I think about my high school days and my middle school days, I never really shared with anyone what was actually going on in my financial household. None of my family and friends, well, my family knew, but a lot of my friends didn't know that I was responsible for a mortgage at 18. They didn't know that I had all of this debt early on. They just saw the things that I was wearing, didn't even realize that I was charging it up on credit cards and so forth. But I needed to be able to feel that void or that lack that I had once experienced back then. So you asked the question about why do you feel like there aren't instances or moments where people like to talk about their finances? It's more than likely because they're trying to hide or mask or cover up a dark experience in their household as it relates to finances, and they don't want to expose that moment of lack. If you think about it, I'm pretty sure many households, you may know, other people may know, those who you know may know, that you've heard conversations where your parents say, I don't have it, or I can't get you this, or we don't have enough for this. And sometimes it can turn into strenuous arguments. And I think because it's such a sensitive thing and people don't want to portray as if they don't have it, they don't want to have these money conversations to really talk about their financial truths. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so transparent around my own financial story, because people may look and see the highlight of, oh, you paid off over $500,000 of debt, so you must be doing this or you must be able to do that, but not seeing the story of what led me there. And so that's one of the reasons too why I want to be able to share my story, because it's not just about the outcome and the results, but it's sharing the process of what got me there and helping people not be able to get there. And that's why these conversations are important to have, so people can know.
You know, I wouldn't say I was triggered, but I can relate so much about growing up and not having. And then when you get the financial means, you kind of try to make up for lost time, and you can accumulate debt very quickly, especially if they give you a credit card limit, right? So I can relate to that for sure, because there's moments I think back and I'm like, why was I spending like that? Like, why wasn't I checking prices? You know, I wasn't balling, but I guess clearly I thought I was, and maybe it has to relate to the way I was raised and trying to make up for that. I do think that's important to highlight for a lot of people. So let me ask you this: you know, got out of debt, almost $500,000. You said that you paid off. There are a lot of college students, I feel like, and I'm speaking from my experience when I was in college, that, you know, there were a lot of credit card companies that would come out and people would take out additional loans that were unnecessary. Like, do you have any clients or speak to certain things to maybe our younger generation of folks that are in school and are just accumulating all this debt and don't realize the long-term effects?
Yeah, absolutely. This is such an empowering, I want to say, comment to speak on. Well, first of all, the good news is that they changed the laws around having the credit card companies or the lenders or the banks going up to the schools to kind of entice students to sign up for credit cards, because I can't say that I was a victim of one of those, signing up for credit cards on campus to get a free t-shirt or to get a bag, a water bottle and so forth. But when we aren't having these conversations with our children, I'm just going to speak to the parents in this point, because when you're looking at the younger generation, they are going into their spending habits based on what they see and based on what they are taught, because more than likely they're going to emulate what they see. So when I'm in the space of wanting to teach people or even having conversations with folks, a lot of their debt stemmed from their earlier years, whether it be credit cards, whether it be student loans, whether it be car loans, it all stemmed from those earlier years. And a lot of times I hear conversations where they say, well, I didn't even realize how much this loan was costing me, because the only thing we think about is, hey, I can afford this car note. If the car note is $300, or if the car note is $400, yeah, I can afford it, so I'm going to get it, but not realizing that you're paying 28% interest on a $30,000 loan, or 17% interest on a $40,000 loan, depending on what the balance is. And so we don't have a tendency to look at the cost of what we are borrowing. Instead, we tend to focus on the affordability of what we can manage on a month-to-month basis. That was my truth, so I'm speaking from it, and that's what I also see with people who I have conversations with. But when I tend to speak, or when I tend to have conversations, I like to show people the importance of looking at the extrapolated cost. So when you take out a loan, you're going to get an amortization schedule. There's going to be some form of schedule to break out how your payments are being applied between principal and interest. And if you really take a moment to look at that, or we had an opportunity to really sit children down or young adults down to say, hey, this is what you're wanting to purchase. This is what it's really going to cost you 5 years down the line, 7 years down the line. Is it really worth it? Are you willing to give up $30,000 in interest over the span of 9 years now, or 10 years, or 8 years? Because most people are getting car notes for over 8 years now, because the affordability of a 3-year loan, it will be too much because of the price of vehicles nowadays. So it's important for us to sit down with our younger generation and let them know, like, hey, yes, you can have the things that you want, however you want to be able to afford it, but just look at what the true cost is and see, is it really a value add in terms of what your purchases are, and how you could possibly take that $20,000 or $15,000 in interest that you're paying for an asset that is depreciating in value, that you can take that excess and actually turn it around so that it can grow for you by putting it in markets where, you'll have a greater ROI as opposed to a negative ROI.
Okay. So in that situation, like specifically talking about a vehicle, would you recommend people purchase a vehicle cash or just really focus on the interest rate?
So you can look at this in two ways. So again, of course, when you buy a car, it's going to depreciate in value as soon as you drive it off the lot. So that's one thing to take into consideration. So most people feel like, hey, if I can buy cash for this vehicle, I will, because I won't have to spend on loans or interest and so forth over the life of the loan. But then there's also another way that you can look at it too, in terms of, well, what would give me the greatest benefit between using the cash to purchase a vehicle or using the cash to actually grow it into additional wealth. So it depends on how you want to look at it and how strategic you can be. So I know for me, I'm more so strategic when it comes to my debt. So although I've paid off a lot of debt, that does not mean that I do not have any, because one of the things that's important to me as well is maintaining a positive credit score. And in order to have a positive credit score, you need to have some form of debt. So I balance it in a way where if I'm taking out debt, it's going to be for a strategic reason. And I have a timeline and a strategy of how long I'm going to maintain that debt so that I can minimize the amount of interest that I'm actually going to be paying on it, if any at all. So if we look at, should I buy this car cash? Should I buy this car through financing? It really depends on the person and what you feel like the true value add would be, depending on which avenue that you take. If you know that you can take that cash that you have and invest it in a way where you can double it or triple it within a year or two, why not take that cash, invest it so that it can grow, and put yourself on you can even put yourself on an extended loan or financing it over a short amount or over a longer period of time so that it could be like a lower payment. However, your intention will be within a year, it's going to be paid off because of the investment that I use, the investment that I made to use that cash to reap it back and then pay it off. So it's all about strategy.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. I know I never considered that. You accumulate debt, like I need to have a strategy to pay it off. So that's smart. That's very smart. You were talking about like investing the money, like to accumulate wealth. So with this podcast, it's legacy, but legacy means so much more than just, wealth, right? Generational wealth. It could be a lot of things, but I do think it is important to recognize that in the Black and Brown community, I personally don't think we have always focused so much on generational wealth, and we are catching up and starting to get more educated. Can you just talk about that? Like as the debt demolisher, like, do you have any type of specific mission or goal to educate the Black and Brown community about wealth and, being able to leave something for the next generation?
Absolutely. It's one of my greatest missions and topics of conversation. The interesting piece is a lot of organizations reach out to me to speak on this very topic as well as others, but mainly around generational wealth and the ways in which we can get there. More so, my focus is on the behavior, because if you don't have the mindset to really think about what types of wealth that you can begin to build for yourself so that you can leave a rich legacy. Come on, you can leave a rich legacy. You won't take the actions to do so. So one of my initiatives, of course, outside of my YouTube channel, I actually did it was a joint speaking presentation with the New York Urban League, Young Professionals chapter in New York. And they had us talking, well, we talked about generational wealth, and we talked about actually the mindset portion of it. So when I'm teaching in atmospheres and capacities, is that, of course, we go into talking about, okay, well, what did we learn about generational wealth? What do we even know about wealth? What does it mean to us? What does it look like? A lot of times people equate generational wealth or wealth in and of itself to a monetary thing or an item or an amount that can be tracked on a balance sheet. But for me, wealth and generational wealth lies in the mind. It starts in your mindset, because whatever you can think, you can create, and whatever you can create can turn into that in the monetary goal that someone may be seeking to reach after in terms of wealth. But the most powerful asset that we each have as individuals walking this planet Earth is the mind that we carry and the ability that we have to create. We all know that the scripture says what around we have the mind like Christ. So if we have the mind of the creator, if we come from the creator, then of course we are one. So I think many times when we think about wealth, people want to talk about houses and assets, which are all important, yes. But I think the most important piece that will allow us to have true wealth is how we manage the intellectual wealth that we have inside of our mind and the power of our brain.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. I think mindset in general, right, is a foundation of so many things that you desire to be successful. So that's a really, really, really good point. So you talked about that's one of your missions, and you've connected with organizations in New York. Do you specifically have any opportunities to educate in the Black and Brown community, or do you look for opportunities to be a resource, I should say, in the community?
I would say yes, but the interesting piece is, honestly, Coach Jessica, I don't I don't have the bandwidth at this moment to really scavenge out and try to pitch myself and reach out to different organizations, even though I would like to, but I know that my schedule doesn't really permit that. So 98% of the speaking opportunities that I get, or the moments that I have to be able to educate the community, comes from those reaching out to me just because they might have saw my YouTube channel, or they might have heard me speak at another wealth empowerment conference, or they might have attended one of my trainings and they may say, hey, I'm having this event coming up, or we have this organization, we would love to invite you to come out to speak and educate maybe our parents, or to educate our youth, or to educate our employees. So those are the instances where those opportunities tend to really come up. But it's not saying that I don't want to, it's just that I don't have the capacity to, but I still have the opportunity to, because people reach out. So similar to how in this instance, being able to speak on your platform, I know that this is going to reach the Black and Brown community. I just recently received an invitation from another organization who wants me to speak to their parents. And so that's going to be coming up since Financial Literacy Month is coming up. So I make sure that I'm able to position myself to be able to be a value add in the internet universe, as well as when I show up in real spaces, so that when these events do come up, or when people do want to be able to have someone come in and speak to their audience, or to their organizations, or to their missions, then they can think of me, and then I'll be able to come in and do that at that point. But it's definitely a mission of mine. Of course, once things can maybe slow down a little bit on my 9-to-5 side of the house, then I can put more practice into doing more outreach in that regard. But 9 times out of 10, it's them reaching out to me to come out and speak, and I'll never turn it down. I never turn it down.
So I have to, just celebrate you for recognizing that you don't have the capacity. And it's one of my favorite words. I don't have the capacity to do. That's a boundary, right? Even though that's a mission of yours, you're still being able to fulfill that but it is more in a place right now or a season where you're having to accept invitations versus, reaching out. And that's not a bad thing at all. And I share that with others because I feel like sometimes, especially as Black women, we want to do so much, right? You don't have capacity. You don't have the hour or two, maybe just even throughout the week to pour into that. So you're like, you know what? I'm still being able to fulfill that through this way. So you're allowing yourself to do that. And I think that's important because we will stretch ourselves thin. Even if it's something as simple as, well, consider it simple as you looking at, like you said, scavenger hunting, like who can I connect with? So thank you for saying that, because that's important. Like you got to give yourself grace. And if you're still being able to do it, not maybe through what you anticipated, but you're still reaching. So that's good.
Yes.
That's good. So tell us about your YouTube channel. You have a lot of videos.
Sophia Melonē. Okay, so I started my YouTube channel in November of 2017, and it was actually at the advice of a business coach. So I was in a business program years ago, and they kept telling me, like, you love to give all of these nuggets, you love to share all of this information. They were like, you should just start a YouTube channel. And I was like, yeah, so I started putting all of everything. Like when I tell you I was sharing everything that I did to get out of all of that debt, I was sharing everything, the highs, the lows, the strategies, the ins, the outs. And I got so excited around like sharing that information. And my YouTube journey was a struggle, to be honest with you. I mean, I was so passionate about getting the information out, but honestly and truthfully, it was hard for me, I think a little bit internally, because I had been starting this channel. I started this channel in 2017. I had been releasing videos, sharing, putting all my juice and jams out on the platform, but it wasn't getting much traction. So, and you, like you said, you learned about me through Tony Gaskins as well. And he shouted me out on his channel and on his page. And at that point, I was at 200 and actually before he found me, it was 238. And then when he came across my page, I was at 242. And that was for almost 5 years. So from 2017 to 2021, I was at 242 subscribers. And I was putting out videos like every other week or every week. And, I was constant with it. But it was that really, like, meaning that shout out from Tony Gaskins, that really helped me to stay with it. Because at first I was just telling God, I was like, Lord, I'm doing all of this. Like, I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like, I mean, I just feel like nobody is listening. And that was the main thing. I just wanted people to be able to get the information that I wish I had before I got myself into 6 figures of debt. And that was the whole purpose and the mission of the channel, to share my story, to share the things that I did to get out of my financial ruin, to share the whole mindset piece. So I cover everything. I talk about financial mindset. I talk about strategies to eliminating debt. I talk about how to save. I talk about taxes. I talk about pretty practically any and everything. I don't touch too much on like investing per se, because you do have to be careful with those conversations that you're not giving financial advice, because this is a public platform, it's a YouTube platform, and I am not technically a financial advisor. And so I'm not going to say something in my videos that may seem like financial advice, and then you come back and say, oh, well, you said to do this, so I did this, and we're not going down that route. So I don't talk about investing per se on my YouTube channel, but I do share high level concepts. So again, like you talked about the channel having a lot of videos, it's an education forum. Yes, I love to teach, but I also have some interviews. So there were some interviews either that I held with folks or that people held with me, and then they, gave me the footage and allowed me to put it on my YouTube channel as well. But the main focus and the emphasis of it is to be a resource. So I have over 1,000 videos on the YouTube channel between live streams, videos, shorts, and it's all educational and some inspiration as well. So the mission behind the Debt Demolisher TV is to give you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you manage your financial baggage and also keep you inspired as you navigate your financial freedom journey.
Okay. Whew. Now you do have a lot of videos. And you know what? I'll be honest, even if it doesn't apply to me, I still will listen because I'm like, I feel like I could take something. And I'm talking like specifically even student loans. I paid mine off 2021 or 21. Yes. And I don't even want to get on that because I only had $11,000 and I didn't want to pay it back.
Oh God. I heard that in your video too when you were talking about the getting out of debt one. I was like, oh, okay.
It took me forever to start. And I had friends, to your point, who had like $50,000 debt. I know some people who have $150,000 of student loans, and I'm over here complaining about my 11,000. I'm like, I'm paying this, I'm dragging this out, but I finally paid it off. But I would listen because I feel like regardless, there's something that I can take from it. And your live streams, I know you would do like your work with you on Saturdays. And that was like something to help people just to like be very intentional about their time. The spending, oh my goodness, what was the name?
Vet Your Spending Challenge.
Yes, the Vet Your Spending Challenge was really good at the end of the year to help prepare for the holiday. And it's so funny, I have to tell you this offline, but I was saving actually for the holidays and I forgot. And I was like, oh, so it's a long story. But you do have so much on your platform that I think people can go back and look and find something that is relatable to inspire them, because it is a difficult conversation. I do think sometimes we live above our means. I have done that myself. I'm not judging, because we want to keep up with what we see online, and a lot of it, and it's not real. It's not real. But I want to touch on you saying that, so for about, was it 4 years, you had like 230, 240 followers, subscribers, and you kept pushing. How do you push through that? Because even though someone may not have a YouTube channel, they're doing something where it doesn't feel like it's growing. How do you keep going where you're looking at the numbers and you're like, we're not going anywhere, God, what's going on?
And I just had to keep remembering the why behind it. I had to keep telling myself, if I would have known this information 5 years ago, when I was in my 20s, or when I was in the financial aid office filling out, what is it, the FAFSA forms or the loan forms or signing off on the documents, I would have been able to make much better financial. I will be better off now, much better off, if I would have known the information that I know now, that I'm practicing now, years ago. So that is what kept me to continue to upload something that was of value. One of the things that I always make sure that I emphasize when it comes to what I share or what I post is, how can this allow someone to get one step clearer on something in the financial realm that they may be avoiding? And so when I was uploading the videos, and I even did live trainings, I think I did live trainings every Wednesday back then. And then people I would see, some people would be like, oh, this is good. You're really giving a lot of gems. But even in those moments where I didn't see the growth, I just had to keep going. But it was that moment, because I don't think I've ever shared really I probably did share the whole story in one of my live streams. I'm pretty sure that I had. But that moment when Tony Gaskins had kind of shared me out, I was literally, and when I tell you, Coach Jessica, I was literally going back and forth with God for about, I want to say, it was probably less than a week, to be honest with you, because I was coming out of a hard space with caregiving for my mom. 2021 was like the worst year of my life. I'll always say this, because it was so hard for me mentally, and the things that my mom was experiencing. And when even still, I was still trying to put out videos. I was like, okay, and I took Tony Gaskins' YouTube for Beginners course. I went and revamped my whole channel. I went back and changed all of the thumbnails on all of the videos that I had put out, came up with the jingle and did all that stuff. And then 2021 got hard for me personally because of what was going on with my mom. And I still felt this tug, like, try to record something, get something out, talk about taxes, see how you can share information with maybe small entrepreneurs on what they need to be prepared of on taxes. So even in those tough times when I wasn't posting as much, that reminder made me, okay, let me just get myself together for 15 minutes and record it and just put it out. And then when in that last moment, where I was like, okay, God, I'm exhausted. I said, I don't even know why I'm having to do all this. Why am I going through all of this in my life? All of this stuff that's going on with my mom. I'm like, I'm a good person. I'm trying to take care of my mom. I'm trying to be responsible. And all of this is going on. And I'm just feeling so drained. And I feel like my efforts are going in vain. And that's one of the things as well that is really huge for me. I don't like to feel like I'm doing something for nothing. I want to be able to feel like what I'm sharing, someone else is being able to do something with, so it can improve their life for the betterment of their life. So when I was going through this battle with the Lord, and I was like, Lord, I'm just ready to throw in a towel. I'm just ready to give up. I just wanted to be done with everything. And when I say everything, I mean even including my life. I was like, okay, Lord, I just feel like I have no purpose here. And it was just like a suddenly. And when that happened with Mr. Gaskins, I was like, oh my gosh. Like when I tell you specific things that I prayed about to the Lord in my private time, never shared anything about were things that was either said to me by Mr. Gaskins, or that was said in maybe one of the videos that he might have been like randomly recording and just happened to kind of talk about my story a little bit in that video. And I knew it was nothing but the Lord. I knew it was nothing but the Lord, because I knew what I prayed for and what I was asking him for clarity on. And so when that happened, I was like, okay, Lord, I'm not playing. A video going out every day, live stream going out every day. I was like, I'm not playing, because now I see that you directly answered my prayers and you gave me clarity on what I need to move forward. So you asked the question around, how do you continue to move when you're not seeing that growth? One thing that's imperative to know is that if you are assigned to a calling, or if you are assigned to a purpose, or if you are assigned to a thing, you will be given evidence at some point during the journey that this is what you need to be doing. So even if you feel it in your heart, if you feel it in your soul, and not comparing anything else to anyone else's success or how anybody else, blows up on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram or whatever the case may be, but just knowing from your heart of hearts what you pray for in your silent moments. If you know that this is your thing, you have to continue to honor, how can I show up on my end to get whatever that mission is one step closer to being fulfilled? Because at the end of the day, it's not necessarily about you and your blow up. It's about the outcome of someone taking either what you share, what you do, how you deliver it, and making an impact on their life. So if we take the emphasis off of us and put it on who we are trying to reach, then yeah, you're going to continue to keep going despite of. And we also have to not look at the numbers. It was hard for me because I'm a numbers person. That's what I do all day. So I'm an accountant in real life. So I look at numbers all day and I analyze numbers all day. So it's hard for me not to look at the statistics. So I was tracking like, counts go up, counts go down. I was looking at all of that, and it could really take a toll on your mind. So if you are someone who is trying to progress through something, but you're not seeing your numbers rise, or you're noticing, it's important to look at the trends, but if it's going to mess with you psychologically, it may be best to just kind of turn that off for a little bit and just focus mainly on what am I putting out and who does it have the potential or the capacity to reach, regardless of what it is. It may be content, it may be art, it may be, clients or whatever. So.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think it's important for a lot of people to hear that you talk about comparison, that spirit of comparison will just take control of you. Yes. But outside of YouTube and, like you said, content creating, there's so many things that we are praying for and we are hoping for or working towards, and it's just not our season for it to happen, and we can give up. And it could be a season where you're just going through a rough time and you question your faith and what you were called to do. But I love that you said, like, the evidence is there. We just got to continue through. And I had posted a video podcast, and somebody reached out to me yesterday and was like, it touched them. And I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter how many watched the video. Yeah, I'm just looking for that one person who I may not even know or never shared with me that took something from it and was inspired and motivated. And sometimes that's all it boils down to. If it's truly your purpose and what you're supposed to be doing, right? Because you got to have the right intentions.
Yeah.
But sometimes it takes 4 or 5 years. Some people it take 10 years. Look at Tabitha Brown and her journey. So that's powerful to share because you are very consistent. I'm talking about everything you do. I'm like, Lord, I want to be like you because I'm be tired. When it comes to consistency, sometimes I'm like, I don't have it in me. But I see you and some others who post and I'm like, okay, well, I can push out 3. But to talk about what I didn't see behind the scenes, it's like, but you don't know what it took for me to get there because there were times where I just wasn't there. And we all need to take that into consideration when we compare ourselves to others. So thank you for sharing it. Absolutely. So anything else about your YouTube channel that you would like to share? Are you anything coming up that we can be looking out for, like any specific topics? You talked about Financial Literacy Month. So will you be doing anything related to that?
Yeah, so you kind of talked a little bit about the Vet Your Spending Challenge. That's been something that I've been doing on the channel for, well, not really on it. I just started really doing it on the YouTube channel. I used to do it on other platforms, and then now I just changed it to just do it solely on YouTube. But this year, I'm taking a little bit of a twist because, like I was saying before, all last year, I was going live every day, doing videos every day, like every single day of the week. And this year, of course, we talked a little bit prior to us starting, my schedule has definitely changed a bit. So I won't have the capacity to record and upload and release in the same magnitude that I did in 2022. So in this year, I'm taking a different approach, considering, okay, well, what is realistic for me and my schedule now to be able to put out and share, but still make sure that it is of quality and it's of value and that it's not just to meet a count, right? So for me, I will continue to share videos, depends on like what's coming up, and more so mainly on like breaking news and topics in the financial industry and the financial space. I talked a lot about student loans and the student loan forgiveness. I received a ton of praise reports from folks who were watching my live streams over on TikTok, and I was teaching people how to apply for public service loan forgiveness and so forth. And so I will have some interviews coming up on the channel for those who want to share their praise reports with me. And so those will be coming so that way you can hear more financial success stories or debt freedom stories. But then also more financial literacy. I'm going to do another challenge. So Financial Literacy Month is in April 2023. Well, it's every April, rather. It's every April. But I'll be doing a 30-day challenge for the month of April on the Debt Demolisher TV. So that'll be the next thing that's most up and coming. But for the most part, it'll just be continued conversations around debt management, budgeting. The live streams, Saturday live streams, will be coming back periodically. I'll announce them before they are shared. And those are intended to be like focus sessions. So you come in, you do your work. I'm not really going to be like teaching and training and so forth. It's just the space of, we're going to come in and do this power hour, financial prosperity power hours. You come in, you do your work, we disperse. And then for the more engaging live streams, like maybe during the challenges, and we can have like conversations and maybe mini trainings. But for the most part, that'll be the flow of the Debt Demolisher TV until things change, until my schedule allows things to kind of swift back into it. But videos every now and then, live streams with intense focus on challenges depending on themes of the month, and then our focus sessions for you to come and do your work.
Well, I just want to highlight, I am so proud of you for really honoring the season that you're in and yourself. Self-care is so important to me. And what I've heard throughout this interview is, on multiple occasions, you shifted based on the season you're in. And even though you are still very busy, you are recognizing and acknowledging, like, I don't have the capacity for this. So your strategy in 2021 was different than 2022. And now, 2023, you're making the adjustments based on what you need, but you're still putting out quality work and you're being strategic about that. And just going back to sometimes, we try to do it all, but like I don't have it to do, and you are shifting your priorities, but still being present and available. So I love that for you, because I know that you are very committed and disciplined to the work, but you are also, intentional in this season. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, is there anything else that you would like to share about anyone out there struggling with I got two extra questions, actually. Anything you would like to share with anyone out there that is like struggling with debt, don't know where to start, just at a point where they feel like they're drowning and just want to give up? Any words of encouragement?
The biggest thing that I can say to this question is to not give up. And the only way that you cannot give up is if you continue to focus on your why. So if you are someone who wants to get out of the hole that you're in, the first thing that we have to do is take the mental aspect of it. Because whatever financial situation that we are in is as a result of a behavior that we have executed. And we must ensure that we accept accountability and accept responsibility for that behavior. So I was talking a little bit earlier around how I was in over $365,000 of debt between car loans, mortgages, credit cards, student loans. I had every kind of debt you could imagine except payday loans. And when I think about the behavior that got me there, that is what triggered me to be like, okay, now I can rectify the situation. But if you're someone who feels like it's so much to handle, the first step that you're going to have to do is really identify where you are in terms of your number. This is going to be a hard thing to do. You're going to have to be able to look at your number, face the reality of your situation. How much do you owe in this moment? And allow your jaw to drop on the floor when you look at that number, because that's exactly what I had to do. But be able to say, okay, I accept what this number is. I accept my role in this number. And instead of me being upset around something that I cannot change, let's focus on how we can change going forward. So it's a mindset thing that you first want to be able to get yourself wrapped around when you are wanting to make a financial transition, because you're going to have your highs and you're going to have your lows. During my journey of paying off over $500,000 of debt, it took me through highs and lows, peaks and valleys. And the only way that you're going to be able to get through it is if you allow yourself to think through the process, coach yourself through the process, or have someone else coach you through the process, but being willing to say, okay, I have the ability to do this. If I got myself in it, then I can get myself out. It may be challenging to do, but it is possible. And if you feel like it's not possible for you, it's imperative to find evidence of those who have won. When I started my debt elimination journey, I did not think that I can get out of the amount of debt that I was in. My stomach sank. My jaw fell. I said, how in the world did I get into this much debt before the age of 30? Like, what was wrong with me? But in that moment, I made a decision and I said, this number cannot get any higher. And after that one decision, I said, okay, now where am I going to find the resources to get me out of this? I had to find evidence of someone who was in their 30s and paid off 6 figures of debt. So I had to go to platforms similar to like Leaving a Richer Legacy, similar to other platforms like His and Her Money. I always talk about His and Her Money. I came across the His and Her Money show when I started my debt freedom journey, and they did stories on their podcast. They interview people, and I received so much inspiration just from hearing that people who were in 6 figures of debt was able to get out. even if they were making a $30,000 salary, even if they were making a $50,000 salary, even if they had over $500,000 of debt, they worked their way out of it. So if you find evidence of a win, that can give you that inspiration. You have no idea how powerful it is to hear someone else's story and how their story will inspire you to do something different in your life. It can be in anything, not even just in your finances. It can be in your approach to your YouTube channel. It can be in your approach to your blog. It can be in your approach to you getting elevated on a job. It can be your approach in anything. People are watching you. And people are looking for your story. And when they hear your story and they see that you've come out of that rut, that's going to give them an opportunity to feel like, okay, if she can do it or if he can do it, then I can do it too. And we're not doing this from a space of comparison. We're doing this from a space of me needing evidence that it can be possible for me. So let's also be mindful of when we're in the space of wanting to get out of something. Yes, you're looking for the inspiration to find the evidence, but don't go into that space of looking for the evidence and looking for, oh, I want to be like this person, or I want to be able to beat this person at their number, because a lot of times that can happen in your situation of trying to get out of the hole that you're in. And when that happens, you end up putting a little bit of that comparison, which can tap into a little bit of jealousy, and it can tap into a whole lot of other stuff. And you just talked about this on one of your videos, Coach Jessica, where about the comparison, not being careful of not to compare yourself. So if you are in a space and you want to get out of a financial situation that's hard for you, be very, very, very intentional around your energy as you are receiving and hearing those success stories that you need in order for you to be able to get the evidence that you can have a win in that area as well. It's not about comparison or trying to beat or trying to outdo. It's about giving yourself that inner confidence so that you can change your behavior so that you can get to where you need to be in your financial life, whether it be to get out of debt, build wealth, build a cash reserve, whatever it is. So that would be my advice to those who are struggling. Find the evidence, but stay pure in the evidence that you're finding to encourage you, and then just change your behavior.
Yeah. You said behavior is the theme here. Behavior and mindset to help you really position yourself.
Yes.
If you could tell your younger self anything, if it came to money management, what would you say to younger?
If I could have a conversation with my younger self around money management and around, I would even say debt accumulation as well, it would be that your validation, your security does not lie in what you have, what you wear, what you drive, or who you do things for. Because majority of the debt that I put myself into was as a result of the insecurity that I had within myself. Being young and not living in the wealthiest neighborhood, grew up in the hood, which is gonna call it what it is. And I experienced lack. And not only that, I'm very small, I'm very frail. So I was teased very badly growing up. I had very, very coarse hair. I told you all that I'm Jamaican. I'm half Jamaican, half Ghanaian, and my hair is very coarse. I had very thick, coarse hair. And I would get teased really bad about my beads. They would beady, beady, beady. I still even remember the rhymes and stuff that they used to say when I used to be the one out there doing the beats on the playground. But nonetheless, I remember those instances, and I remember being teased so badly. And I remember not having enough. I remember the pain of standing at the bus stop with a too small shoe on because my mother could not afford to buy me another pair. I remember those moments of just feeling like, I don't have, and being in school and seeing the kids flashing their Eddie Bowers, their Jordans, their this, their that. And I have on a little dollar store coat or cheap store coat, whatever you want to call it. When I made my first paycheck, when I earned my first check, I'll never forget, District of Columbia, $76.02. I will never forget my first paycheck. I said to myself in that moment, when I looked at that check, Coach Jessica, I said, I will never have one pair of shoes again. But what did that thought life bring me to? It caused me to have a dysfunctional, emotional relationship with money, because then I took my money to spend it on things so that I could feel better about myself because of the things that I experienced when I was growing up and because of the lack that I had when I was growing up. So I said to myself, I'm gonna make sure that I have all kinds of shoes. I'm gonna have name brand. You're gonna see me in Iceberg. You're gonna see me in Chaps, like Ralph Lauren, Dooney and Burke. Anything that I could afford with my money, that's what I did. So if I could go back and tell my younger self, it would be that you don't have to use your financial resources to impress upon someone else. You are beautiful just the way that you are. You are validated just the way that you are. And what you earn, how you spend your money is not going to change or make or break who you are as a soul, who you are as a person. So if I could go back and have those conversations, I would have not spent all my money on Iceberg. I would have not spent all my money on Chaps and Fendi Sumi and Dooney. I would not have. I would have stored up those resources so that I could be able to not have the amount of debt that I ended up walking out of when I went to graduate school, undergraduate school, and so forth. So those would be the conversations that I would tell myself when I was younger. Be wiser. Yeah, it's not a bad thing to be able to treat yourself, but check the way in which you are trying to treat yourself and for what reason. And that's one of the reasons why I came up with the Vet Your Spending Challenge, because a lot of times we spend from the wrong energy. We spend from the wrong space. We spend from a space of insecurity. And until we could address that, until we can see that, then we'll never really get to the space of true wealth. We'll never really get to the space of true wealth. So to my younger self, I would tell you, you don't have to spend all your money on other people. You don't have to encourage people to try to love you by spending on them, because that's all that's going to end up turning into is them using you anyway.
And probably leaving too. Probably won't even be in your life.
That part too.
Yeah.
And because they have. I can't tell you how many times that I've spent money, Christmas, birthdays, whatever, just given to so many different people, and they don't even talk to me to this day. They don't talk to me to this day. So I did all of that trying to keep them there, but it never really kept them there, because what? They just wanted what I was giving them. They wanted their selfish outcome out of it. Because at the end of the day, it's sad to say, but people only really care about themselves. Like, if you're going to give them something, they're going to take it.
Yes, they will. They will. Well, thank you for sharing that. That could be considered a personal response, but I just thought to ask you, like, what would you tell your younger self when it comes to money and about your spending challenge? I thought it was just like, figure out how to save some money. And it did stretch me. I'm like, whoa, now where are these questions coming from? That's not what I was anticipating. And it made me realize like why I did have really, really bad spending habits, and why some of the way I spend is still that same way, because it all tied into my childhood. Mm-hmm. So I think it's something that as you continue to do that, I pray that it continues to grow, because I think that will help a lot of people. If they're not comfortable having that one-on-one conversation, that alone will help a lot of people to tap into that. So we talk about your YouTube channel, but how can people find you on multiple platforms?
Yeah, so the easiest way to find me is on my YouTube channel. I'm sorry, that's in my YouTube channel. The easiest way to find me is on my website, SophiaMelonē.com. That's SophiaMelonē.com. And that'll take you to all of the platforms. Of course, I'm on TikTok. I do a lot of teaching on TikTok, YouTube. I'm not really active on Facebook and Instagram. I'll just be honest, because that's not really like my space and my jam, but I do understand the importance of having a presence there. But mainly you'll be able to find me on YouTube, TikTok, but my website, SophiaMelonē.com, can take you to all of my platforms where I can be found.
Okay. Well, I will make sure I include the website so people can find it. If for any reason they don't have that info, they don't remember it, or it'll be an easy click. But I do appreciate you for joining me and just dropping so many nuggets about debt management, money management, and it coming from a safe space, because I think sometimes it feels like people can be very judgmental, and it's a sensitive topic because we are afraid to have a conversation, or we are trying to get out of debt. So I love your approach and what you're doing. Thank you for blessing us with your presence. And I'm looking forward to watching some more videos and what you're doing this season.
Thank you. And if I could just add one more thing, Coach Jessica, I do want to share with anyone, if you are looking for a space to get that like kind of financial help, or just want to have those conversations, there are places and platforms where you can go and you can have these conversations for free. One of the things that I always like to share with folks is that you can be resourceful during this journey. You don't have to pay for a session. You don't have to pay for a class. More than likely, who you work for, they offer classes. They may offer things through their EAP program. That's one of the best resources if you know that you work for an employer, is to find out what options are available to you through the benefits that you already have. So be resourceful, understand, especially if you're doing anything through EAP, it's confidential. So if you're looking for a safe space to be able to kind of have those conversations or even begin to learn, tap into what you already have and what you have access to. And then you can have, of course, other resources on YouTube and videos or whatever the case may be that can help you. But I just want to encourage folks that there is help, and you may not always have to expend your budget or leverage your budget in order to get that help. So just be mindful of that support is here for you, regardless of where you are, and just don't be afraid to be resourceful in your season.
Yes. Good point. My company offers that, and when I was trying to do a better job with budgeting, it was one of the resources that was available, and it was free. So you are absolutely right. I think we sometimes don't, really tap into what is available, or ask the questions. So thank you for ending with that, because you're absolutely right. But I appreciate you. And thank you so much for joining me.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Coach Jessica.
Thank you. Bye-bye.